I recently watched a YouTube video of one of my favorite Polyglot Youtubers named Lindie Botes, and she came out with a video about how to become a language YouTuber. By watching Lindie's video, it gave me the motivation to make this video right now and to be able to not only see my own language progress, but also to be able to share resources with other people, to be able to meet new people. I feel like by becoming a YouTuber or by making these kinds of videos, you actually are finding a way to connect with people. I want to not only show my language progress to myself, but I also want to be able to share with others, what my process of learning is with learning these different languages and what resources are out there, because there's so many out there, and hopefully be able to help others in their language learning journey too. I feel like it's great to be able to connect as a community and to be able to share our knowledge with other people. I had made a video back in May of the different languages that I was learning, and I spoke in a few of them. I provided some translation at the bottom of what I was saying, so it sort of showed you my language progress, or I would talk about in the video about how I was learning the language or how I was exposing myself to it. So in this video, what I want to do is show a bit of my progress in certain languages. In this video, I would like to show you my progress in one of the languages that I wasn't really focusing on all that much initially. It was a language that I wanted to study, but I only recently, as of end of June, started taking regular weekly lessons on iTalki. I started to put in more effort into learning the language. So this language specifically is Vietnamese. I hope that through this video, you can not only see my progress in the language since end of June to now, but that you'll also see what resources I'm using. So if Vietnamese is a language that you're interested in learning, then you can try out some of these resources and see if they work for you. I was definitely really nervous about making these videos because I'm very camera shy and I tend to freeze up. And actually through watching Lindie Botes' video about how when she started making videos like these, that she would also get really nervous and really shy, and she had a bunch of different difficulties that she went through when making these videos. I feel like I totally understand from her point of view. When you start doing this, initially it's really intimidating, but I think hopefully over time it's like you become more comfortable being able to talk to a camera versus like when you see someone in person. I know that I'm very different when I talk to someone in person than when I'm in front of a camera. I tend to just get really nervous. Because of that, actually, I felt like I was gonna forget what to say in certain languages, so I ended up getting a notebook and I wrote down what I was gonna say in each language, which I feel like in reality is more of a handicap, because then you're just memorizing things, you're not really learning things through context. I really want to try to immerse myself in the language learning process in the most natural way. And I feel like you don't want to just be reading things off. You want to be able to come up with the information in your own mind. So I'm going to try to do that. When I first learn a language, I write down what goals I want to reach with the language. So with Vietnamese, I wrote 3 goals. Tiếng Việt, mục tiêu của tôi. 1. Gọi món ăn ở nhà hàng Việt. My first goal is to be able to order food at a Vietnamese restaurant, because we have a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in the San Jose area where I live. I want to be able to order Vietnamese food confidently and have the people understand the things that I'm ordering. Hi, nói chuyện với bạn của tôi trong 5 phút. So I want to be able to have a conversation with a friend in Vietnamese for 5 minutes. With my iTalki tutor, we actually do start our lessons off with just her asking me a bunch of questions about my day and and I have to be able to respond to her questions. I'm able to do it for like a couple minutes before I have to ask her what something means, or I'm not clear about a certain word or phrase that she used. So it's still something that I'm working on. But Viet về sự tiến bộ của tôi với tiếng Việt. For this goal, I want to be able to read a children's book in Vietnamese. Viet về sự tiến bộ của tôi with Vietnamese. Wait a minute. I don't know if that's actually what it means. Oh, okay, so I guess, but Viet về sự tiến bộ của tôi với tiếng Việt. So I want to be able to write about my progress in Vietnamese. Because I feel like with writing, that actually helps me learn the language better. So I hope that through kind of the writing process that it helps solidify some of that vocabulary and grammar. And I get to do that in my iTalki lessons when she gives me the essays to work on. I really have to use the knowledge that I have to be able to write 200, 300 word papers. So I hope that through that process that I'll be able to write about various topics, or like, for example, to be able to write about my own progress, but in Vietnamese. Xin chào, bạn có khỏe không? Tôi học tiếng Việt khoảng 5 tiếng. Tôi học tiếng Việt khoảng 5 tháng rồi. Có nhiều người nói tiếng Việt ở San Jose. Cũng có nhiều nhà hàng Việt Nam. Tôi đang học tiếng Việt trên iTalki. So I have been studying Vietnamese on iTalki since the end of June until now, and I've been doing once a week lessons. They've been extremely helpful in terms of working on pronunciation and working on vocabulary, grammar. And I think for me the biggest one was the pronunciation, because Vietnamese is a tonal language. So if you don't say it in the right tone, then people may misunderstand you or not understand you at all. So for me, it was really important to learn the pronunciation. And through iTalki, I was given a lot of assignments that I had to do. Like I had to write like 200, 300 word essays on my hometown or my best friend. I had like different topics I had to write about. And so I'm sort of looking at my folder right now of all the stuff that I've had to do with my iTalki teacher. So she's given me different resources with dialogues, vocabulary, some grammar points, but then also homework assignments where she's asked me to write down 20 questions. Or like I said, I had to write a 200, 300 word paper. I remember there was one paper here that I had to write about my close friends. You can see that it's there's kind of a lot going on in this paper, but I, wrote it out first, and I saw how long it took me to write that, which it took me about 25 minutes to write 200 words. And then after I did my first draft, then I went back and I made some edits or looked up some words that I didn't know. And, I, on the side here, I actually did a word count of like how many words I had in each sentence. So then, because I wanted to see if I was getting up to my 200 word count. Unfortunately, when I started writing this, when I first wrote it, I only wrote like 140 words, but I think after spending some time with it, I was able to get up to 200, but it still took me about 45 minutes to an hour to write this whole paper. It took me a lot of time, but it was a process that really helped solidify the vocabulary and solidify the information that I had learned. Another thing that I've been trying to do is do more reading. Reading is a great way to expose yourself to the vocabulary and the grammar in context. And so I bought this book from Tuttle called Vietnamese Stories for Language Learners. I have not used it yet because it just came last week, but I spent hours researching on Amazon and different sites. You'd be surprised at how difficult it is to find good reading sources, that the story's at the appropriate level for you to read, especially if you're a beginner, or that there is some translation available so you can understand what the general idea of what's happening in the story versus it just being in one language, and making sure that it's also accurate, that they're using the right vocabulary and grammar. When I was doing a lot of this research, looking into different reading resources, it was surprising how common it would be for people to talk about, oh, there were all these spelling errors in the book, or like they used this really archaic word that nobody uses anymore. I think when I did all of my research, it seemed like the best resource that I saw was this Vietnamese story. So hopefully I will get a chance in this upcoming week to listen to the stories. It comes with the CD. Which that's kind of my big thing, that if I'm just learning a language, I want to be able to hear it and make sure that I'm not only hearing it correctly, but then I can mimic it and be able to produce the sounds correctly as well. I'm hoping that this will be a good resource, and I will let you know in a future video how this goes. Also, another thing that I've been doing is I've been watching a specific TV show in Vietnamese. What is it called again? It's called Ai La Chiu Phu, basically Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in Vietnamese. And it's actually a great way to listen to speakers speak naturally in Vietnamese. But then also, because I already know the format of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, then it's easier to follow. So I've actually been able to pick up vocabulary here and there by listening to the show. So I think if you can find shows that are interesting to watch, I would totally recommend watching something, whether it's on YouTube or if you're into dramas or something, find something that you're interested in watching so you can build up that listening practice. And you can also practice, mimicking it as well, so you can work on producing the sounds as well. For me, it's really important to work on producing the sounds appropriately because you want people to understand you. That actually has been really drilled into me because I'm part of an organization called Hippo Family Club, or LEX America. And what they do is they're all about learning languages as if you were a child. Because as a child, when you're trying to pick up languages, the only way that you are exposed to it is by listening to your parents speak and by mimicking what they're saying. And so, and that's how a child picks up their first language, is just through listening. That is the easiest, most natural way to learn a language. So even as an adult, when we're learning languages, we want to go back to that time where we're exposing ourselves to listening so that we can pick up the language, that we can pick up vocabulary and grammar just by listening. It's something I feel like is really important to focus on. Then from there, being able to mimic and produce the sounds so that you can speak the language more fluently. One of the things that I've learned through Hippo, but also through Lindie Botes and other YouTubers as well, that it's important to not be afraid of making mistakes. So I think it's important to know that the language learning process is, I don't know what to say about that, making mistakes. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I don't even need to put it in there.